FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
There are three different issues. One is the issue of the discourse on Islam is incompatible with democracy. What does it mean? The discourse on Islam today is very similar to the discourse on Catholicism in the 19th century. And the arguments used are exactly the same. It's a non-changing religion, essentially unchanging, essentially undemocratic, illiberal, authoritarian, traditional, and cannot really accommodate modernity. So this is the first argument. The second, they have these transnational loyalties, they have this Ayatollah in Rome, and they can never be good citizens because their primary identity is to the Ummah, to the Catholic Church. And third, they have these weird customs, these Irish, they can never become good Americans. So the arguments were exactly the same, and they were basically dominant in the Kulturkampf, not only in the United States, but in Great Britain, in Holland, in Germany. So you have this conflict between Protestants and Catholics, and the argument against Catholicism was very similar to the argument against Islam today. It is not that there was no reason for the argument, there were some reasons. But fundamentally, at least history has shown, that things have changed. Nobody talks about Catholicism today in the same terms. And of course, the discourse on Catholicism shaped the way Catholics responded to this discourse. So again, the question is the dynamic the discourse creates. Of course, Catholicism also had its political Catholicism in the 30s that was very undemocratic, was very pro-fascist. But something happened. And you have a transition to Christian democracy. We forget that it was the Catholic Christian Democrats that basically established the European Union, basically very much led also democratization in many of those countries after World War II. So this is something we have to take into account. Now, if you look around the Muslim world, of course, it's true there are a majority of Muslim countries that may have authoritarian regimes, but not necessarily because of Islam. I mean, there are other very promising developments in Indonesia, in Senegal, in Turkey, that show indeed that there is no necessary relationship and that developments could go in a different direction. Now, for me, because precisely my first encounter with Islam was with Sisters in Islam in Malaysia, a feminist group, I never could have the notion that Islam is homogeneously fundamentalist. Precisely, I came there on a conference challenging fundamentalism, challenging both the fundamentalism within Islam, but also challenging the depiction of Islam as fundamentalist. And so it's simply we have to unpack those things. The fundamental difference, I would argue, between Catholicism and Islam is that in Catholicism, when things change radically, very fast, and homogeneously after Vatican II. And suddenly you have a process of democratization throughout the Catholic world that had authoritarian regimes. In the case of Islam, it goes in opposite directions. It's a very pluralistic, internally pluralistic and diverse structure, has no hierarchical authority, so you will have both very pacifist and very aggressive, very violent, feminist and misogynist trends, liberal and very conservative. So there will be not one single direction, and probably we'll have to live for a long time with very contradictory manifestations of this transformation of Islam.